My name is Rachel, and for the longest time, I thought I had the perfect marriage. We had been together for nearly 8 years, and if you asked anyone who knew us, they would have told you that my husband, Mark, and I were the ideal couple. He was charming, successful, and seemed so devoted to me. People often said I was lucky. But if only they knew the truth. If only they saw what was really going on behind the polished smiles and weekend barbecues. The truth is, my marriage was not what it appeared to be. It all started with Mark's so-called business trips. At first, I never questioned them. He worked in corporate sales, and travel was part of the package. Sometimes he'd be gone for 2 or 3 nights. Other times for an entire week. He'd come home with stories about client dinners, new contracts, and the stress of long meetings. And me? I believed every single word. But then little cracks began to show. One Friday evening, about 6 months ago, Mark rushed out of the house, saying he had a last-minute trip to Chicago. I kissed him goodbye, told him to be safe, and watched him throw his suitcase into the trunk of his car. Later that night, I called his phone just to check in, but it went straight to voicemail. That wasn't like him. Usually, he at least texted me back quickly, no matter how busy he was. I tried to convince myself he must have been in a meeting or on a flight. Still, something gnawed at me. When he came home 3 days later, he looked exhausted. But there was one detail he seemed to overlook. As I unpacked his bag for him, I noticed his clothes weren't wrinkled the way they usually were after business travel. In fact, some looked freshly laundered. I asked him about it, and he gave me a nervous laugh. Oh, the hotel had laundry service. I didn't want to bring back dirty clothes for you to deal with. At the time, I let it slide. After all, who was I to question a thoughtful gesture? But it didn't end there. A month later, he claimed he had to travel again, this time to Dallas. But his trip fell right on our wedding anniversary. I remember the disappointment in my chest when he told me. Rachel, I know it's bad timing, he said, putting his hand over mine at the dinner table. But this deal is huge. If I close it, it'll mean so much for our future. I'll make it up to you, I promise. I smiled, trying to hide the ache inside me. Of course, Mark. I understand. But the thing is, I didn't understand. Why was it always work over us? Why did he never fight to stay, even for something as special as our anniversary? On the day of our anniversary, I sat alone in our house, sipping wine and staring at the bouquet of flowers I had bought myself. Mark had left that morning, suit pressed and bag neatly packed. He kissed me quickly on the cheek before hurrying out the door. I tried calling him again that evening, but, just like before, straight to voicemail. That's when the doubts grew louder. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing other things. Mark had become more protective of his phone, always keeping it face down on the table. He changed his passcode, claiming it was for work security reasons. His credit card statements, which I occasionally saw, had strange charges, expensive dinners in places he claimed not to have traveled to. When I asked about them, he had an excuse ready every time. It was a client dinner. Oh, that charge? Must have been a mix-up. I'll check with accounting. His explanations were smooth, almost rehearsed. But my gut told me something was wrong. I confided in my best friend Lisa. She's the type of person who sees right through people. When I told her about Mark's trips, his phone, and the mysterious charges, she didn't even hesitate. Rachel, I hate to say this, but something doesn't add up. He's hiding something. You need to find out what. Her words echoed in my head for days. One evening, while Mark was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally, I respected his privacy, but my heart was pounding with suspicion. I picked it up, only to be met with a locked screen. The notification preview was hidden. I couldn't see who it was from. By the time I put it down, Mark stepped out of the bathroom, giving me a look that made me feel guilty, as if he already knew I'd tried. Everything okay? He asked casually, drying his hair with a towel. I forced a smile. Yeah, just tired. Inside, though, I wasn't tired. I was restless. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. Mark announced yet another trip, this time to New York, for an urgent conference. His bag was packed so quickly, I wondered if he had known about it long before he told me. That night, instead of drowning myself in wine and self-pity, I decided to do something different. I tracked his car. Months earlier, He had insisted on installing a family tracking app for safety. At the time, I thought it was sweet. He said he wanted me to feel secure knowing where he was when he traveled. I had almost forgotten about it. But now, it felt like the key to everything. When I opened the app on my phone that night, my breath caught in my throat. Mark wasn't in New York. He wasn't even at the airport. His car was parked at a hotel just 30 minutes from our home. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours, my hands trembling, my chest tightening with each passing second. Was he really lying to me? Staying at a hotel so close, while I sat alone thinking he was hundreds of miles away. I knew I had to see it with my own eyes. I grabbed my keys, drove through the night with my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. When I pulled into the parking lot of the hotel, my stomach twisted. His car was right there, in plain sight. I parked a few rows away, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind raced with possibilities. Was he alone? Was he with someone else? The urge to storm inside and confront him was overwhelming, but fear held me back. What if I was wrong? What if there was some innocent explanation? I sat there for over an hour, watching the entrance, waiting. And then, I saw him. Mark walked out of the lobby. But he wasn't alone. He had his arm around a woman. She was laughing, leaning into him as though they were more than just colleagues. They looked comfortable, intimate, like lovers. My breath caught, my world tilted, and I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was the beginning of a truth I had never wanted to face. And in that moment, staring at the man I thought I knew so well, I realized my life was about to change forever. I had finally seen the truth with my own eyes, but I had no idea just how deep Mark's lies would go. I froze in my car seat, my fingers gripping the steering wheel so tightly I thought it might snap in half. There was Mark, my husband of 8 years, walking out of a hotel with another woman. And not just walking. His arm was wrapped around her, like she belonged to him. I wanted to scream, to run up to them and demand answers right there in the parking lot. But my legs wouldn't move. Instead, I sat motionless, watching as he opened the car door for her, smiling in that charming way he used to smile at me. They drove off together, his car disappearing into the night, leaving me alone in the shadows with a broken heart and 1,000 unanswered questions. When I finally drove back home, I felt numb. I kept replaying the image of them together in my head, over and over again, until I couldn't tell if I was imagining it or if it had truly happened. But it had. I knew it had. Sleep didn't come that night. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence of my house. When Mark finally returned the next evening, suitcase in hand, pretending he had been on a business trip, I felt sick watching him. "Hey, sweetheart," he said casually, leaning in to kiss me on the cheek. His lips brushed my skin, but I didn't feel anything, only disgust. "How was New York?" I asked, forcing a smile. "Oh, exhausting. Meetings back to back. But we closed the deal," he said proudly, kicking off his shoes. It was worth it. I wanted to scream at him, to throw the truth in his face. But instead, I stayed silent. I needed proof, something undeniable. Something he couldn't wiggle out of with another one of his smooth excuses. Over the next week, I started paying closer attention. His business trips happened more often than I realized. Twice that month alone, he claimed to be in different states for work, but the tracking app told me otherwise. His car kept showing up at that same hotel just 30 minutes away. I couldn't take it anymore. I told Lisa. She came over one evening, and I poured out everything. The hotel, the woman, the lies. "Rachel," she said firmly, grabbing my hands across the table, "you need to stop doubting yourself. He's cheating. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Tears burned my eyes. "I don't know, Lisa. I feel like I'm living in some kind of nightmare. I can't just walk away. What if I'm wrong? What if there's some explanation?" Lisa shook her head. "Sweetheart, you saw him with your own eyes. There's no business conference 30 minutes away. And no man puts his arm around a colleague like that. You deserve better than this." Her words gave me strength, but also fear. What if I confronted him and he denied everything? What if he turned it all back on me, made me feel crazy for doubting him? I decided to wait, to gather more evidence. The next time he announced a trip, I pretended to be supportive. New Jersey, this time? I asked, feigning interest. Yeah, he replied smoothly, avoiding eye contact. Big client there. Could be a 3-day thing. As soon as he left, I packed a bag of my own. But instead of heading to a business meeting, I drove to the hotel I knew he favored. I parked in a discreet spot, my heart hammering in my chest. Hours passed before I finally saw him. He walked into the lobby hand in hand with the same woman as before. She was tall, with long brown hair, dressed elegantly, almost like she belonged on his arm. My chest ached at the sight of them. This time, I wasn't leaving empty-handed. I pulled out my phone and snapped pictures from a distance. Him holding her hand, him laughing with her, them walking into the hotel together like a couple. I felt a rush of emotions, rage, devastation, but also relief. I finally had proof. When I drove back home, I could barely breathe. Every mile felt heavier than the last. When I walked through the door, I wanted to throw his things out, burn his suits, destroy every reminder of the man I once thought was mine. But I didn't. I waited. 3 days later, Mark came home again, looking tired, suitcase in hand. He kissed me on the cheek like nothing had happened. So, he said casually, "How was your week?" I forced a smile. "Quiet. Just work and the usual." "How about yours? Did you close the deal in New Jersey?" "Of course," he replied smoothly. "It went better than expected." I wanted to laugh in his face, to pull out my phone and shove the photos at him right then and there. But I held back, because a part of me wanted to know just how far his lies would go. That night, as he slept beside me, I stared at him in the dark. His breathing was steady, peaceful, like he didn't have a care in the world. And I wondered, how could he lie so easily? How could he live 2 lives without flinching? The next morning, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I texted Lisa. "I have proof. Photos." I saw him with her again. She replied instantly, "Rachel, you need to confront him. He's making a fool out of you. Don't let him get away with this." But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Instead, I decided to do something else. The following weekend, Mark announced another trip. I kissed him goodbye, pretending to be the supportive wife as always. But once he left, I followed him. My hands shook as I trailed his car down the highway, my heart racing every time he changed lanes. And just like before, he didn't head to the airport. He didn't even leave town. He drove straight back to the hotel. I parked far away, watching from a distance. And that's when I saw her again, the same woman, waiting for him outside the lobby. But this time things were different. She wasn't just standing there like a secret mistress. She was holding a small overnight bag, and when Mark approached her, he kissed her on the lips. Not a quick, nervous kiss, but a real kiss, full of passion, the kind of kiss a man gives someone he loves. My stomach twisted into knots. The air left my lungs, because in that moment, I realized this wasn't just an affair. This was something deeper, something worse. Mark wasn't just cheating. He was living an entirely different life. And as I sat there, watching them disappear into the hotel together, a terrifying thought crept into my mind. What if I wasn't his only wife? I couldn't move. My hands clutched the steering wheel as I sat frozen in the hotel parking lot, staring at the entrance where Mark and that woman had just disappeared. My husband wasn't simply sneaking off for casual affairs. No, this looked serious. The way he kissed her, the way she carried her overnight bag, the comfort between them. It was as if they had done this countless times before. And then came the thought that chilled me to my core. What if I wasn't the only wife? I shook my head, trying to calm myself down. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe she was just a girlfriend. But even that thought didn't help, because either way, it meant my husband was living a lie. I sat in my car for nearly 2 hours, torn between storming into the hotel and waiting for more answers. In the end, fear and curiosity won. I drove home, but I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through my phone, staring at the pictures I had taken of them together. The next day, I couldn't take it anymore. I confided in Lisa again. "Rachel," she said, her voice sharp with anger, "you have to confront him. You already have proof. Why are you still torturing yourself?" "Because," I whispered, my throat tightening, "what if there's more? What if this woman isn't just a fling? I need to know who she is. I need to know everything. Lisa exhaled, rubbing her temples. Then find out. But don't wait too long. He's making a fool out of you every single day. Her words rang in my ears for days. The following week, Mark announced another trip, this time to Boston. He left on a Wednesday afternoon, suitcase packed neatly as always. The moment he drove away, I grabbed my keys and followed. Sure enough, he went straight to the same hotel. But this time, I didn't just sit in the parking lot. I waited until he went inside. Then I walked into the lobby myself, my heart hammering against my ribs. I went up to the front desk, pretending to be calm. "Hi, I think my husband just checked in here. His name is Mark Harrison." The receptionist typed quickly, then looked up at me with a polite smile. "Yes, Mr. Harrison checked in a short while ago. Would you like me to connect you to his room?" My stomach dropped. She didn't even hesitate. She said it so casually, like this wasn't his first time there. But what shocked me more was when she added, "And Mrs. Harrison has already been checked in since this morning. Do you want me to leave a message for them?" My ears rang. "Mrs. Harrison?" I forced a tight smile and muttered something about it being a mistake before walking out of the hotel in a daze. It wasn't just an affair. He was introducing her as his wife. When I told Lisa later that night, she almost dropped her wine glass. "Rachel, this is insane. He's not just cheating, he's leading a double life. 2 wives, 2 homes, 2 everything." I buried my face in my hands. How could he do this to me? 8 years, Lisa. 8 years of my life wasted on a man who's probably been lying since day one. Lisa's voice hardened. "You need to protect yourself. Find out who she is. But also, start preparing. This is going to get ugly." Over the next few days, I became obsessed. I tracked his car every time he claimed to be on business. I checked his credit card statements, searching for clues. And then, one evening, I finally caught a break. There was a charge for a fancy Italian restaurant, not far from the hotel. The receipt was emailed to his shared account, one he probably forgot I had access to. And the name on the reservation? Mark and Anna Harrison. Anna. I finally had a name. The following weekend, I couldn't stop myself. I drove to the restaurant at the same time he had made the reservation before. I didn't even know if they'd be there, but my gut told me they would. And I was right. From across the street, I saw them through the restaurant's glass windows. Mark, looking polished in his suit, smiling that charming smile. And sitting across from him was Anna, the woman I had seen at the hotel. She wasn't just beautiful. She carried herself with grace, like she had no idea she was part of something deceitful. She looked at Mark like he was her whole world. And suddenly, I didn't just feel anger. I felt pity. Because if she truly believed she was his wife, then she was a victim too. I couldn't stop staring at them, my heart twisting with every laugh they shared, every affectionate glance. It was like watching a cruel performance. My husband playing the role of a loving husband, only to someone else. I drove home in silence that night, my mind spinning. I had 2 options. I could confront him and risk him denying everything, twisting the story like he always did. Or I could wait, watch, collect more proof until there was no way out for him. I chose the second option. The next time he came home, suitcase in hand, pretending to be exhausted from travel, I greeted him with a smile. I cooked dinner. I played the role of the supportive wife, even though inside I wanted to scream. But every time he laughed, every time he touched me, every time he looked into my eyes and lied, I felt the fire in me grow. Because I knew something he didn't. I knew his secret. And when the time was right, I was going to expose him completely. But what I didn't know yet was that Anna, the other Immerse, Harrison, was about to find me first. It happened on a quiet Sunday morning. I was in the kitchen making coffee when my phone buzzed. At first, I thought it was Lisa checking in again. But when I picked it up, my heart skipped a beat. It was a message from an unknown number. "Hi, I think we need to talk. My name is Anna Harrison. You don't know me, but I think we share a husband." I dropped the phone. My legs nearly gave out beneath me. Anna, her. I stared at the message for a long time, my chest tightening with every passing second. Was this real? How did she even get my number? Was this some kind of sick prank? I finally picked up the phone again and typed with trembling fingers. What do you mean? Who are you? The reply came instantly. Mark's wife. I'm guessing you are too. The room spun. It was like the ground was shifting beneath me, and I couldn't keep my balance. Everything I had feared, everything I had suspected, was now staring me in the face in black and white text. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw the phone across the room. But instead, I typed back, "Where did you get my number?" Her answer was short but devastating, from his phone. "I found your contact saved under home." That single word shattered me. Home. That's what I was to him. A place. A convenience. While with her, he played the role of doting husband. Anna wanted to meet. She suggested a small cafe downtown, neutral ground. At first, I hesitated. What if she was trying to trick me? What if she was in on it? But my curiosity and my anger was stronger than my fear. The next day, I drove to the cafe, my stomach churning with nerves. I walked inside, scanning the tables, until I saw her. Anna. She looked even more stunning up close. Long brown hair, soft features, kind eyes that carried a shadow of sadness. She stood when she saw me, and for a moment, we just stared at each other. Two women bound by the same betrayal. Rachel? She asked softly. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. We sat down. There was an awkward silence at first, the weight of everything pressing down on us. Finally, Anna broke it. I've been married to Mark for almost 5 years, she said quietly. At least, I thought I was. We met at a conference, fell in love, and, well, he told me he was divorced. He promised me he'd never hurt me. Her voice cracked, and I saw the pain in her eyes. She wasn't my enemy. She was another victim. I've been married to him for 8 years, I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. 8 years, Anna. And all this time, he's been splitting himself between us. Her face went pale. So, it's true. He's living a double life. We sat there for over an hour, piecing together the puzzle of Mark's lies. His business trips were really weekends with her. His late meetings were dinners with me when he claimed to be away. He had built 2 lives, balancing them with frightening precision. He even introduced me as Mrs. Harrison at a hotel, Anna said bitterly. Like I was the only one. I clenched my fists under the table. He's been using both of us. Playing us. But not anymore. Anna leaned closer, her voice low and firm. Then we need to take him down together. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. I felt power. We exchanged numbers, promising to stay in touch. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I had proof, pictures, receipts, his lies. And now, I had Anna on my side. The next few days were a blur. Anna and I began sharing everything we knew. His schedules, his excuses, the details of his lies. And the more we uncovered, the angrier we became. Lisa was ecstatic when I told her. This is perfect, she said. Now you have an ally. You two need to trap him. Corner him so he can't deny a single thing. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Mark announced another business trip. I pretended to smile, pretending to believe him, while inside, I burned with anticipation. This time, Anna and I had a plan. She would text him, asking to meet at the very same hotel he usually took her to. Meanwhile, I would already be there, waiting. The night arrived. My hand shook as I drove to the hotel. Anna was already there, sitting in her car. We exchanged a nod, the unspoken bond between us stronger than words. And then, we saw him. Mark pulled up, stepping out of his car with that same confident smile, suitcase in hand. He looked completely at ease, like a man about to enjoy a secret weekend with his other wife. Anna walked up to him first. Mark, she said, her voice steady. He froze, his smile faltering. Anna, what are you? Before he could finish, I stepped out from behind a column. His eyes widened in shock as he saw me. Rachel? He stammered, his face draining of color. For a long, heavy moment, the three of us stood there in silence. Anna crossed her arms. Care to explain, husband? Mark's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. He tried to speak, but no words came out. For the first time, The smooth, confident liar had no excuse ready, and I knew in that moment that the life he had built on lies was about to come crashing down. As Mark stood frozen between his two wives, I realized this was just the beginning, because I wasn't about to let him walk away without paying for what he had done. Mark stood there like a deer caught in headlights, his suitcase slipping slightly from his grip. His eyes darted between Anna and me, as if trying to calculate an escape route. "Rachel, Anna, this isn't what it looks like," he stammered, his voice trembling. I almost laughed. After everything, after years of lies, he still thought he could charm his way out of this? Anna folded her arms tightly, her voice icy. "Really, Mark? Because to me, it looks like you've been living a double life. 2 wives, 2 homes, 2 sets of lies." He swallowed hard, trying to regain composure. No, listen. It's complicated. I can explain." I stepped forward, my hands shaking, but my voice steady. "Then explain it, Mark. Explain how you kissed her in the hotel lobby. Explain why you told me you were in New York when your car was parked right here. Explain why her name shows up on your credit card statements as Mrs. Harrison." His mouth opened, but no words came out. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not guilt, not shame, but pure fear. Anna pulled out her phone and held it up. "You think you're so smart, don't you? I've recorded everything. All your little love messages, all your sweet lies. And now Rachel has photos too. You're done, Mark." His face drained of color. "You don't understand, Anna. Rachel, I love you both." Those words nearly broke me. "I love you both." I stepped closer, my voice rising. "No, Mark. You don't love either of us. Love isn't lies. Love isn't betrayal. You've been playing us like pawns in your pathetic game, and now the game is over." The silence that followed was deafening. For once, Mark had nothing left to say. Anna turned to me, her voice sharp but calm. "We should go, Rachel. Let him rot in his lies." But I wasn't finished. "No," I said firmly, locking eyes with him. "You don't get to walk away from this without consequences. You took 8 years of my life, Mark. You humiliated me, and you need to pay for that." Anna nodded slowly. "I agree." Together, we walked past him, leaving him standing there like a ghost of the man we once thought he was. The next weeks were brutal, but they were also freeing. Anna and I became unlikely allies, bound together by betrayal. We hired the same lawyer and filed lawsuits, me for divorce, and Anna for annulment of a fraudulent marriage. Mark's double life unraveled quickly once the legal system got involved. His career crumbled too. His company found out about his scandal when Anna leaked the story to one of his colleagues. Soon, word spread like wildfire. The charming, successful Mark Harrison was nothing more than a liar who had built his life on deception. And me? For the first time in years, I felt free. I moved into a small apartment of my own. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. No more waiting up at night. No more wondering where he was. No more playing the fool for a man who never deserved me. Lisa stood by me every step of the way. One night, as we shared a bottle of wine on my new balcony, she smiled and said, "You know, Rachel, you're stronger than you think. Not many women would have faced what you did with the grace you showed." I wiped away a tear and smiled back. "Grace?" "Lisa, I wanted to burn all his suits." She laughed, and for the first time in months, I laughed too. Anna and I still talk sometimes. She's rebuilding her life just like I am. There's no bitterness between us, just mutual respect. We both survived the same storm, and now we're stronger for it. As for Mark, the last I heard, he was living alone in a small rented house, fighting off debt and disgrace. He tried calling me once, leaving a voicemail begging for forgiveness. I deleted it without listening to the end, because forgiveness is not what he deserves. What he deserves is to live with the emptiness he created, the wreckage of the lies he spun, the destruction of the trust he shattered. And me? I finally learned that love isn't about clinging to someone who betrays you. Love is about respecting yourself enough to walk away. So now, when people ask me about my marriage, I tell them the truth. My husband lied about business trips. He thought he could live a double life forever. But in the end, I exposed him, and I chose myself. Because sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't screaming or fighting back. It's walking away and letting the liar choke on his own lies.